There we go. So we'll keep an eye on the waiting room to see if anyone else joins in. I know not everyone is calling in from the East Coast, but it is about 65 degrees and beautiful this morning. So I would imagine a lot of people are probably outside if they can be. So it might be a little bit lower attendance today, which is totally fine. We have a lot to cover on the updates that came out last week, the updates to the product, just to make sure everyone knows what they're looking at, how to use it, and also how to answer questions that you might be getting from your customers. So uh, I think everyone here was at the roundtable last week where Jimmy talked about the updates that we did on Thursday, some of the new features, and we're going to do a deeper look at those today. So we're going to jump right in. Of course, if anyone has questions, just interrupt me. And if we have more in-depth questions, we can come back to those at the end. But and we might come back to this at the end too. I know JP spent a lot of time covering this at the roundtable, so we can we can come back to it. The first thing is we'll look at this probably at the end if we have time. There are some new articles on docs.hats.ai, especially around adoption and looking at credit usage in your tenants, so your own tenant and your customers' tenants. There's a new article, updated information on billing, on workflows. There are some new features in the workflows that we'll look at today. That information is there. And we also added content around the LLM selector. So that's the first thing that we're actually going to look at is the new LLM selector. This is now what you see when you log into the chat. And Jimmy showed this briefly on Friday at the roundtable. Um, but if you haven't had a chance to play around with it yet, I really recommend doing that today because there's a lot more information about each model that you can find really quickly just in the platform without having to go to docs.hats.ai to compare on a 40-row spreadsheet and look at different, like, no, you can just look at all that stuff right here. So what are these categories? What are these attributes? Each model has a unique combination of these attributes, and you'll see model descriptions. So something as simple as OpenAI's flagship model for general purposes, or something really specific like great at interpreting images. So you can look through just at a very high level what they're good at or what they were built for, and you can see their capabilities. So this is more like the intelligence. So if you see here, it says high. It's a very intelligent model, has a very high capability. So we have low, medium, and high. You'll also see the speed, and that's the green. So there's slow, medium, and fast, and that's just the rate at which you'll get an output generated. The slowest one, I believe, is O1 from OpenAI. Let Mark in. Another one that you'll see is credit usage. We have a whole slide about this. Then vision capabilities. So does it have the ability to process images? Can you upload PNG, JPEG files, things like that? And then finally, tool usage. So if it does not have this little pickaxe next to it, it means it can't scrape the web. So you won't be able to turn on this AI powered search. There will be other tools that we add in over time, a lot more tools that we add in over time. And some of these models are not built for that. So that will not be turned on for those models.
So,
Uh,
Mark, the other tools doesn't really apply just yet.
right.
Okay, I was curious about that. I was like, okay, what's
Mhm.
the other tool? So,
Yeah, that'll
what's
be
the AI powered search at this point? Okay.
yeah, just the AI powered search. There will be other things that are built in. There will be things like CSV analysis tools, code execution, like different things that require. Basically, if you think about tools, uh, it's you're using an LLM, but you need to give that LLM access to something else in order to do what you're prompting it to do. And not every LLM will be able to go and grab onto those other tools. Um, So in this case, it's the web search. You just won't be able to turn that on for every single model.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Then you can filter. So if you want to, if you know that you just want a reasoning model, you can click on that drop down, scroll down, and click on reasoning models. It'll open those, or just models with tool use. You can also look at our featured models. We have a sort of a formula that picks which featured models we're recommending. These are really just the recommended models because you can think of it like the best bang for your buck, right? It's going to be a good mix and a very efficient mix of speed, uh, intelligence, credit usage, all of it's going to be right in the middle. So they're going to be the really smart models that are not that expensive. We're not going to put GPT 4.5 preview in here. That's a premium model. It's going to cost a lot more to run. So these are the ones that are going to be the most efficient for you. And so we recommend those here. These might change over time. So these will be the featured models. You can also click on View All Models. If you open that drop-down bar, scroll down, and click on View All Models, that will open a window on the right side of your screen where you can filter by developer, and you can also just look at all of the models at once. So if you just want OpenAI, you can just filter by OpenAI. The credits, I said we had a whole slide on this. They're ranked from lowest credit consumption up to premium. And right now, again, these might change over time. These are not static uh, categories, they're not static rankings. But the two that are premium right now are GPT 4.5 Preview and Claude 4 Opus. Everything else, it's not a consistent, it's not like you're always going to use 5 credits if it's the lowest model. It depends on a lot of factors, but it's saying this is the LLM that on average will consume the least amount of credits for that function. So if you ask all of these models to do the exact same thing, this is the order in which they'll consume credits. So if you ask, one of the Llama instruct models, which is the lowest, to summarize a document, and you ask GPT 4.5 preview to summarize a document, there's going to be a very different amount of credits that are consumed. So you can see those if we go here, this one's a medium low cost, which is why it's a recommended featured model. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. And then these are some of the things that contribute to credits. There's been a lot of questions about those. Um, this is, again, these things, it's not static, it's sort of a dynamic uh, target as AI develops and things keep coming out, new features and new tools. These categories might change a little bit too, but basically it's what you give AI. So if I give a short prompt that's 10 words long, that's not going to consume as many credits as if I give it a 10-page PDF to read. Files, larger files will need more credits to interpret those, and also chat history. If you've taken secure chat, our course, you know that every time you're chatting, the AI is not just reading the new prompt that you gave it, it's cumulative. So if I start a chat, I give it the first prompt and it gives me a response. So I have a prompt and an output, input, output. If I respond, I give another input. Well, that input is actually the input plus the output plus the new input. And that just keeps on going. So your 20th chat is actually your 20th chat plus everything that came before it. So if you see credit spikes in the chat on a certain day, usually that's because someone is keeping a chat open. AI tries to read everything that came before it. So chat history can also increase the number of credits that are used.
The iterative.
It's iterative. Yeah, the iterative chats there, they can increase the number of credits. And then
So Mark, so if I'm, say for example, I close the chat, now next time, tomorrow, if I just go in and open my previous chat and start using it, so it's going to again consume everything which was.
Yeah, it usually consumes everything, even, I mean, even if it's 6 months in between your last
It's still
input and
looking.
output,
Got it. Okay.
it'll still consume everything because it's looking into its context window. So each model has a different amount of like short-term memory is the best way to explain it. Um, so it's looking at that context window up to sometimes it's 100,000 characters or you know or words or tokens. So it'll keep all of that information in the chat and keep referencing it. Great question. We also just talked about this, which is, you know, AI can also use other tools, can use the API. It takes power to do that, and that's part of that's credits. And then there's some other factors like complexity. If I say, hey, just give me the definition for this word, or analyze this spreadsheet, right? They're two very different levels of complexity. And then we just talked about different LLMs take different amounts of power to run. The final thing here is the output length. So if you tell, again, AI to give me the definition of a word or create a 30-row table with 20 columns, it's a very different output length. You know, write an email for me versus respond to an RFP. Those are going to take more power to generate. So just keep those things in mind. We also have some new LLMs coming out soon. These are in progress, GPT-o3, and I believe we might be adding another one from OpenAI, and then we're also adding Gemini 2.5. Right now, Gemini 2.5 is absolutely dominating on all of the leaderboards for different LLMs. It's very, very good. I know I said that last week about Claude 4. This one's doing even better. So uh, really excited to get this one out and start trying it out. Okay, before we move on to the web scraper step, any questions on?
Real quick, Mark. One, do you ever see the developers changing their nomenclature to make it a lot easier to understand? The O3s and the 4 Os and the 4, and I mean, it's like that means absolutely nothing to most
Yeah.
of us, right? And it's like, why can't you make it simpler and you know, more descriptive, I guess, is really what it is. Do you see that coming down the pipe, or do you think everybody's just going to keep doing this stupid, you know, naming
Yeah.
convention?
Yeah, we have Nova, we have O, we have what else do we have? We have Claude. It really that's completely on the developers.
Yeah, Mark,
It's
I think
yeah.
OpenAI are going to do it. Sam Altman was talking about it a couple of months ago. That's where they want to get to by the end of the year. So you don't have to worry about the models. I don't know how that would then link up to what you're doing, but that
Yeah.
apparently is what's on their roadmap.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, Nick, were you gonna say something
I
too?
just said, oh, cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like they've talked about it. I've seen some memes about it too. People making fun of them for making it incredibly hard to to understand what the different models are. Um, I'd like that to happen. I think that as yeah, one thing that JP's brought up before, in you know in I don't know if it was office hours or but the the question of will we get to a point where models and developers sort of morph into one, you know, one trajectory, right? Where, you know, this one's coming out with a new way to, you know, to use MCP servers, and this one's coming out with new video and like all these different things. Are they going to sort of merge? I don't know. I think that they will get easier to use, especially because OpenAI has they've been about this since the beginning. They're direct to consumer, you know, going for a billion. They have a billion customers. They want to make it easy for everyone to understand and I mean if the end of the year is their goal for that, then possibly, yeah. I think we've actually started to see it happen a little bit already with Amazon. Their newer models are easier. They're called Nova, right? I mean, you're still going to have those like the names for them, but their nomenclature around you have Pro, uh, Mini, or you have Pro, Micro, and Nano. It's a little bit easier to understand than O3 or O3 Mini and O4.
Exactly.
So yeah, so those, those things are starting to get a little bit more commonplace with these newer models. Grok, right? You have Grok Fast, Grok Mini. So it's definitely possible.
I think Mark,
Currently,
the other thing that the one thing that'll be consistent is that it'll all move quickly,
Yeah.
right? And it'll change quickly. And as difficult it is for us, our customers, your end customers, your MSP end customers, they're confused, and the employees are confused. So simplicity through one portal, one platform where you can choose and get some guidance around some of this is helpful. And I think that's the problem we're fixing today, but it won't be there forever. Um, and that's why the pace we talk about is important. The pace to go out to the customers, let them know you have options. They don't need to have 10 different um, subscriptions, or even 3 or 4 different subscriptions to different models. It could be all under your umbrella, where they'll have options and there'll be some guidance there, and with some education, they can use different ones. But this is great though, Mark. It's very helpful. You going through it like this.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think what you've done with the enhancements on, expanding on what each model is capable of and all of that has been fantastic. It's really helped me. I just think that when you get down to the client level, it's going to take them some time, right? I've been face first in this for a little while, so I kind of understand it a little more, but I like the fact that you got the recommended models up front, right? Up top. That just tell them, hey, just stick with the recommended models for now, right?
yeah, yeah. And you'll see there's even more uh we're calling them, quality of life changes coming to those where, eventually you'll be able to turn off certain models, and then that formula for featured models will kick in, and well, okay, he looks like they just, disabled OpenAI. 2 of the recommended models were OpenAI. It's going to pick the next 2 that fit that criteria. So you'll, even if you turn off a bunch, or there's certain things that you'll be able to do at a more granular level for each tenant. We're keeping that ease of, like, that convenience in mind for your customers.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, Jimmy also mentioned at the roundtable there will be something probably over the summer. It's not the next update or anything that quick, but a credit explorer, similar to OpenAI's tokenizer, where you can drop in a bunch of text and it'll say, oh, if you're using Grok 3, it's going to use this many credits, and if you're using GPT-4o, it'll use this many, and it gives you that approximation. Now, of course, if you add on anything to it, or if you turn on other tools or whatever, that it might change, but at least it gives you that ranking of how many, which one is the most efficient. So those are all things to look forward to that are coming out. Yeah, Jimmy wants to call it the Credit Explorer. I think it should be called your credit report, but apparently that was already taken. So, um, let's take a couple minutes here and look at the new web scraper step. This is exciting to me because it is the feature that I understood the least when it came out. So I really wanted to, I really wanted to spend some time talking with you all about it today, because it has a lot of potential in the right use case. And the more features and tools that we add in, and updates to the workflows, the more this will make sense as you zoom out and look at it in context of the rest of the workflows. But it is available now, and there are some ways that you can start to use it today. So we're going to look at how that works. Has anyone been in the workflows and tried the web scraper step?
not yet.
Not yet. Okay, no worries. I'd be surprised if you did. So what it is when you're in the workflows and you click on the box, the step where it gives you that little plus sign to add a new step, like add a connection, instead of just adding a normal standard new prompt step, you can add a web scraper step.
Sweet.
Yeah. So your only input for this is a URL. You can't put text in here. It's only a URL. This is not the same thing as the AI powered search. You notice there's no button down here for AI powered search. This is the equivalent of in the chat, add a URL, right? Where it goes out and it looks at the page. It's not going to click on anything. It's not going to, read anything on other pages. It's just going to ingest that page. And the output is only ever going to be the markdown for that web page. So you input a URL and it outputs the markdown for that. And you can then connect that back in. And we can see what that looks like in a second. You can also, I know I just said you can only put a URL in here. You can't type text that's not a URL into this box, but you can put other info in, like a constant, an output from a previous step, or even a user input. It's going to look for a URL. So if you have a step that comes before this web scraper step, right? This is what it looked like. You can put a URL in here, input a URL, and AI will automatically extract the content. If you put, let's say you have a step that comes before this, and it's reading, I was working on this last night, so I'll use this as a real example. It's reading an RFP, and there's a URL for the organization, the company that's posting that RFP. If that's in that document, this step will look through that previous output to find the first URL. There could be 100 URLs that come out of this output, but it's going to find the first one and inject that into this input. You can turn on a user input for a URL. So you can say, copy and paste your company URL here. And again, it'll only let you put in a URL. You can't type anything. It'll send an error. It'll say you can't even click generate until you put a URL there. So a user can put their URL in, and that'll inject that here, and it'll scrape through that page and turn that page into Markdown and send it off to the next step. So right now, there aren't hundreds of use cases for this, right? You might find some fringe use cases for it, but over time, as more and more features come out, this will make more sense where you need to go and just grab the content from a page. It could be LinkedIn, right? It could be Salesforce, right? Where you have a step. Once we get the Salesforce integration, you have a step and it needs to go and look at an account and scrape the page from the account and put that into here. It's not going to go click on other links. It's just going to look at that one customer's account. Same thing in your PSA, right? Or anything else that you might be using where you just need to get one page and it depends on the URL. So if I have one URL for an account, it can go and look through that and grab all the information and then put it back into this workflow. So this will make, go ahead.
Sorry, is it a loop feature then? So I could give a list of companies, go and find the URLs, and then it will loop through and get the information. Can you do that with it?
Yeah. So that's one that I'm gonna show you an example of that, Mark. So hold on to that.
Hold on.
Yeah. No, I have a use case that's built to start to do that. So we'll see how much it can do. Before we show this in real life, I just want to show you. Let me stop sharing and switch over to this. So I mentioned at the beginning, we updated some of these help articles, and one of them, I believe we showed everyone last week, but if you weren't on the call, we have use case videos. We're continuously updating this, but you can click into all of these and click onto the videos, and it'll show you, how they're built and how they work. So you can take some of these, you can just grab them and, put them into your slide decks if you want to show these as demos, or you can just go here for inspiration you want to see how these, how other people are using the platform. So those are here. And then just to quickly show you, this has been updated. So this how to hats, it basically follows the crawl, walk, run approach. See, oh, and thanks JP for linking that. So the first part here is AI basics. This is where you can go learn about the AI powered search. Mark, that might be helpful for one of the questions that you had.
Yep.
AI model selector is here. Whoops. So it explains again what these attributes mean. And then there's a video here that shows you how to get into view all models like that. We have the workshop, so crawl, walk, building an automation, publishing apps, we have workflows, and then run, where, this is where the integrations, the API docs, things like that live. There's also some new articles here, like adoption. So if you want to find credit usage, just a quick article, 4 steps to do that. Yeah. So yeah, I can show you this example if you're interested. Let me find it here. Headhunter, duplicate this. So this is, Mark, this is sort of what you were asking about, and I was on with one of our engineers pretty late last night, figuring out the best way to do this. And it's really going to depend. So what I've done here is, I've told it that it's an expert recruiter, and its job is to create a plan. So I'm using Claude 4 Opus. It is a premium model. You could probably use Claude 4 Sonnet as well, and it's creating this plan to find candidates in a location by a type of business and a type of professional. So that looks like this. Type of bit. I could say hospitals in Philadelphia, and I want medical directors or something like that. Then, so it's going to create the plan to go search for those, and I can actually have it do this search. Now, this is where it might be helpful to stick in a couple of these. Instead of this, we can do, so once you click on this, you can click on add new step and then add a web scraper step. I can just stick in the output from employee search. And if there are any URLs like LinkedIn profile URLs here, it'll go and search through that LinkedIn profile. And then I can take that and stick it back in here. That's just one example of this. I could even use it for this Salesforce assistant, where this is just one step right now, but I could add in a web scraper step where I say, I give it the official, documentation page for Salesforce, and I say, find the, tell me if it's listed here, if they have like a table of contents, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does it loop then with that sort of Zappy thing at the moment?
How does it say that again?
So if I gave it a spreadsheet of 10, and can it work through each line and come back again, loop through the spreadsheet?
That's what I was working on. That's what we were trying to figure out the best way to prompt for that. I think what we came up with was there's 2 different ways to do that. So the question is, right, you have the workflow, just so everyone's on the same page. You give the AI a spreadsheet. Let's say it just has 10 rows for simplicity. It has 10 rows, and in each row, let's say column C has a URL. So you have C1, C2, C3, etc. Can it loop back and search through that URL for C1, URL for C2, URLs for C3, and give an output for each one? There's 2 ways. Right now, you'd have to manually create, separate ones for each, like separate steps for each row, and tell it to go look at the specific one. The other way to do it is using RAG, where it goes, you'd sort of give it everything all at once in like an AI powered search. You say, go look at all of the URLs in the spreadsheet and store all of the information and use RAG. And then the web scraper step would search through each one. That's something that we'll add in a little bit more clarity on over time. So Mark, long story short, I'm working on a way to do exactly what you just asked, because it's really relevant for a lot of use cases. And that'll help
But
this. Yeah.
but short-term workaround, you can do
Yeah.
that in Zapier really quickly, because that's the bit
Yeah.
I've been working on, is integrating this with Zapier.
Yeah.
And the fact you've got an AI agent that will do what you want it to do is so powerful. It's sort of really opened my eyes in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
So it's not a showstopper at all, and more powerful than Zapier's AI agents, by the way. That's why I think this is really good.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, first of all, but a lot of the way that Zapier works is you have to match data point to data point. You know, you have to say, I want this to go here. The direction that we're going with this is a little bit different. I can't say too much because it's still, it's still a work in progress with the way that these integrations will work. You'll be able to, let's say it's going to be, your PSA or Salesforce or,
Mm.
Microsoft, whatever it is, you'll be able to turn on those integrations. It'll be, this is one of the tools. You'll have an integrations tab and you can turn on integrations for a step and basically just say, I want it to do this. You won't have to match every single data point.
No.
You can sort of tell it what you want it to do, and the AI will find those operations in the API and do all
And I
that stuff.
suppose
So
you'd be able to trigger that from Salesforce Flow anyway, wouldn't you?
yeah, yeah. So you can, and again, you can like send those Salesforce URLs directly, an account or an opportunity or whatever it is directly into the workflow.
Powerful.
Yeah, yeah. We're plugging along here. So this is a step. You're not going to find this. I don't try to stick this into every use case. Uh, let it come up when it comes up, if that makes sense. Like, don't try to force the web scraper step in. If you think, oh, I wish I could just put I wanted to just go to one URL and that's it, then that's the use case for it. If I think of any, if any use cases come up, we'll look at them next time. If I think of any between now and then, and if you do too, reach out. If you think of a way to use it, reach out.
Mm.
So that's all I had in terms of updates for this week. Before we get into, I know some of you did come with questions. JP, is there anything that you wanted to add on activation, playbooks, go to market? Did everyone here get the AI activation deck, JP? Oh, you're on mute, JP.
Everybody should have it. Just curious, everyone get it?
I
Yeah,
did.
we did.
I did.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Um,
Yeah, it's
any-
really good. I handed that off to our marketing guy to tweak it for possible use in the
super,
webinar.
super. The one thing it's not in there, Mark, but we might just might prompt people. We have a blog and the Hats website. I'll put it up here. It might be helpful for MSPs just to grab those. I think we do one a week. Put them in an app and have them repurposed for your own MSP and shoot them to your customers. I think that might be another piece. Like I think, Mark, we did one only recently. Yeah, five steps to kickstart AI implementation for all of this is around adoption. How do we think about getting started? So from a customer perspective, that'd be probably something as you drip feed all of that content to them. It'll help open up opportunities as well. Thanks for putting it in the chat there, Mark. But that's a very simple, script app as well. If in terms of putting that content into Hats and have it repurpose with your own MSP and put your own spin on things. But no, that's all I had, Mark. I know there could be questions in the room as well. Whenever you get a chance.
Yeah. Anyone have any questions that we can we can tackle today.
I'm gonna stay quiet for a minute.
Okay.
The docs is helpful, Mark. I've sort of, particularly as you're updating it, just in terms of the phone agent, so there's a couple of things there, Mark, right? So one is there's a refresh happening at the moment that'll be launched soon. But in the meantime, I think Mark Burham, we were chatting about this. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just overheard a conversation for our organisation where they're going out to AI agents for calling out, but also possibly for our help desk. So we're typically overstretched, and I was thinking, okay, is this something that we could use, get people excited about?
Yeah.
Because they've moved me more or less full time now onto Hats AI.
Yeah.
So that's a good move from Marco. But yeah, how does it work? It's the concept of it first of all, and ideally, what I'd like to be able to do is just have the phone ring, and it's Adele, and they start talking to it in a board meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's exactly what it does. Probably just set Mark up here a little bit. It might be good, Mark, give it a like very, very high level of Adele, but before, just in terms of it's very, very good at inbound, basic triage. Mark will touch on it. I think particularly MSPs are using it maybe first out the gate as out of hours or high call volumes for the help desk. It often comes up, can we do outbound? I think technically the technology is there. It's not something we have done. There's all sorts of in different jurisdictions consent issues if you have, I mean, if the sales team enable it to call leads like that, that just brings another non-AI sort of concerns in terms of opening that.
I've looked at it. I've looked at it this morning for the UK. Very blurry.
Very blurry.
I get it
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
So
People
it's
may
the
not
same as a
appreciate.
human ringing out at the moment. By the look of
Yeah.
it.
So I mean, look, that's a facility that is there today, different, but but that's not something we have out of the box. So for inbound, Mark, can you refresh everyone's memory maybe on like how do you add it in? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just at a high level, and let me, while we're doing that, pull up the admin side so we can show you how to add one. But just at a high level, the phone agent is a collection of other tools. We call it an agent because that's what it is, right? When you use the AI powered search, that's an agent. It's using multiple tools to go out and execute on a prompt. So it's using Brave Search, Google Search, Perplexity, Firecrawl. The AI is using all of those tools at different phases. The AI phone agent is the same way, where you're using an LLM, but instead of just you sitting at a desk typing into a large language model and getting a response, there are steps added. It's almost like a triangle. So there's steps added on both sides where you have voice to text. So there's a transcription tool. That's first. That transcription tool is sent to the LLM. The LLM generates a response and sends it back as text, and that goes to the phone voice. And then in between there's also the the actual phone number and the host. Like there's a whole bunch of other steps there, but it's voice to text to LLM to text to voice. So there's a couple steps that happen. Which all of that being said, the latency being like a millisecond is really great. There's a bunch of steps that happen every time you're saying a word and every time it has to respond. So that's what's going on. It's not like some one tool that does everything. It's a bunch of tools put together, and that's what makes it an agent. So if I share over here, I'm going to share my. Can you see this? Welcome back, Mark, my admin dashboard. Okay,
Yep.
perfect. So the way that you add in a phone agent, if you don't already have one, is by going to billing. So the phone agent is the only, I mean, besides adding packages for customers, it's the only thing that is not included in the base subscription. So it depends on, it depends on how you're set up with Hats, but it's between it's around like $36 usually US dollars per month. And you're going to go to billing and then buy licenses. Then you'll choose your license, and instead of clicking on purchase a package, you'll click on phone agent resale license. We only have one SKU, so it says resale, but you can use it internally or you can resell it. Doesn't really matter, but it has to be stacked onto an existing tenant. So you can't sell a customer just the phone agent. You have to sell at the very least the chat, like an intro pack, and then you sell the phone agent on top. But if you want to use it internally, no problem. Don't get thrown off by the resale SKU. It's just all one. So you click on buy now, and then after a couple of seconds, you'll have this tab pop up that says AI phone agent, and you'll also have this license type, and you'll have one available phone agent. When you do that, this tab pops up, you can click on it, and this is how you can manage all of the phone agents across your organization and all of your tenants. So you can help customers manage their phone agents from here. So you will have a blank screen. There will be nothing here because you won't have any numbers purchased. You'll need to click on new phone agent. And when you do that, it gives you a bunch of options. You can choose your country. Actually, no, we changed that. You can't choose your country. If you want to get a number that's not a US number, you just reach out to HATS and we do that for you. The reason for that is because there's very different laws, very different regulations around AI phone agents, and we need to make sure it's approved so nobody gets in trouble. But we take care of that. You don't have to do that part. So you can search for your number by number or locality. It doesn't really matter. So Mark, to your point where you want someone to be able to call in and Adele starts talking, they're not going to ever see this number, right? You can just do a blind transfer in from your normal number, and you can set it depending on your phone carrier settings. You can make it so that if it's after 3 rings, it calls into Adele. Or if it's a non-answer, instead of going to voicemail, it skips voicemail and goes to Adele. Or it just skips the whole thing altogether and immediately transfers whatever your settings that you can do that you can do that. So you never have to publish this number. So if you don't get the exact like area code or the exact first 4 digits or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? No one's going to see it. So all that to say, once that happens, you click on select and you can give it a name. So typically it'll be something like, help desk or, after hours, like that kind of thing. Then you'll choose the tenant you want to have access to it. And then just like you're assigning a tenant to a new customer, you'll click on this and it says I have 2 left. So I can assign one of those and then I'll click accept. And once that happens, it'll show up here and it'll tell me who the tenant is, what the name that I gave it was, and what the phone number is. I can then click on this little gear button, or I can just click on, oh no, we changed that. So I can just click on this gear button and it'll open this page. And this is where the prompts are. It starts with a blank screen. We're changing that, but in the meantime, we do have, if we go here, there is a workflow. So if you go to workshop and then under workflows, if you click on home, there is something that you can use. And people are adding so many. This is great to see. There's this AI phone agent templates where you can put in your phone name. We'll say it's the help desk, and I want it to collect name, company, issue, and we'll click on generate. This will write the prompts that you can insert into here, and the email. So you're going to want to set up all this stuff Under models, I think we give a recommended model here. I usually just go with a Llama model. No reason to do anything more than that, unless you like the way that it answers questions differently. So if you like the Claude 3 Sonnet or Claude 3.5, you can do that. But usually, the Llama models are great. We give in this workflow, here we go. So you can see opener message gives you the opener message there that you can stick in. It writes the prompts for you. And then it'll also write the email template, and it'll give you the recommended settings. So top K value, temperature, and tokens. So you can move these around. These are sliders. We have docs articles that show you what all of these things mean. Go here. If you go to AI phone agent settings, you can read about it, and you can also watch a video about what I just showed you. So yeah, that's basically how to set it up. The only thing is, if you are not in the US, again, reach out. The process for that is you reach out, let us know you want one. We go and submit a request for regulatory approval. We have to get a bundle. It's a whole thing. Usually takes about a week to get that approved. We let you know that it's been approved. I say, go ahead and buy this, and you buy a US number, and you tell us what that number is, and then we switch it in your account to the approved UK number. We don't always have control over what the UK number is. They just give us one. But again, that's hidden from the callers. You can just transfer in.
Cool. So has it got a RAG on it as well? So if it's a help desk agent, can it actually answer questions? How does that work?
Yeah, so that all goes into this prompt section. This, you can put a ton of information in here. We have some where people actually drop in, they'll just copy and paste like 30-page documents into here with all sorts of troubleshooting docs. You're using the LLM that you choose. So in the phone call LLM settings, so if I want, you know, this one, Llama 3.2 1B, I can go and look at its context window. Llama 3.2 1B. Okay, I don't have anything here, but it's these are usually fine. We're redoing this, so a lot of this is kind of in flux right now. But this is usually fine for the amount of information you would need to give it. I think the most I've ever tried to drop in is like 30 pages worth of content into one of these, and it's been fine. So you can just copy and paste stuff in. We are working on Adele 2.0, so an upgrade to the phone agent. That is in progress. There's a lot of stuff that our engineers are working on, including upgrades to call transfer numbers, the ability for Adele to access information. So Mark, like that question. There's just UI, UX components that are changing, upgrades to voices. There's a ton of stuff. If you've been with us for a while, you know that the chat did not always look like this, right? So imagine that the phone agent has sort of always looked like the phone agent. So we refactored about 80% of the code for the chat. Same thing for the workshop. That's where workflows came from. And Adele is up next. So that's what's happening in June. So there's going to be a lot of changes to it. And with all of the changes that we make, we're changing it in a way that it makes it easier to add new features. Right now, it's very hard to add new features to older, at this point, like legacy products. It's been long enough that that's kind of what they are. So we're rebuilding them in a way almost from the ground up that it's a lot easier to add new fun tools to them.
Okay. Do you think it would link into things like Salesforce?
Yeah, eventually, you'll see we're calling it a more integrated platform, or a more unified platform.
Yeah.
Where the phone, the workshop, and the chat will all work together better. So if you're in the chat, you want to call an agent from the chat. You want to, you want to trigger a workflow from the chat, or a phone call happens and it goes and starts a workflow or ties into other tools. Like that's where we're going.
Yay.
Yeah, yeah, it's an adventure.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a lot of technology to solve.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
oh, go ahead.
and outbound as well. Possibility of that.
Still TBD on that. Getting AI to do outbound and outbound anything really with its AI generated outbound emails, outbound SMS, outbound phone calls. Still TBD.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So, Mark, I spent almost all day yesterday working on my phone agent.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been kind of tweaking it here and there and trying different things with the prompts and trying to maybe even do some markdown language in the prompts and stuff. But one thing that I found is some of the latency
Mm-hmm.
is pretty long, and the consistency of the output is kind of not there yet.
Okay.
Like I ask the exact same question every time I call it, right? And it will give me different answers every time to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
I'm starting to figure out things like, it doesn't understand how to pronounce CMIT. It just calls it CMIT, right? So I started
Yeah.
spelling it out as SEE, EM,
Yep.
EYETEE, right? So that it would pronounce it properly. I figured a lot of that stuff out. But one thing that I found is like there's a lot of filler words that will come up that aren't appropriate, or they'll use two filler words that don't really make sense, right? Like somebody will, like I ask it, the question I asked it is, can you tell me about your services, right? It's an inbound sales call line. And it'll be like, got it. And then it'll pause.
Yeah.
And then it'll go, understand. And it'll pause. And then it'll start saying, oh, so I'm glad you're asking about that, right? And it's some of it's really, really good. And some of it's just like, okay, that's a long latency in between there. Now, obviously it knows, the people know it's an AI agent, but
Yeah.
it's just little things like that I'm trying to fix, and also giving it guardrails. Like I told it, that we can help with, 365 and 24/7 monitoring, all that stuff. And it does a pretty good job on all that. But I said we also can help with, implementing secure AI. Well, one time she went off on like, we can help you develop software and all this other stuff. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not what we do, So how do I start to kind of prompt that and
Yeah.
try and give it some guardrails and eliminate like the filler words, or can I give it specific filler words? I tried even saying, limit your filler words, but it didn't do any good.
So really good questions in there, Nick. And I don't know if we'll have time to get all of them during this office hours, but
Sure.
we can dedicate an office hours to the phone agent. I think that'll be really important once we have these upgrades, kicking off a little bit.
Yeah.
To really quickly address some of those, latency was the first point. Yes, that is, as far as I know, that is one of the things that they're addressing with the upgrade. Cleaning up a lot of the code will help with that. So that should be one of the things that gets better just naturally. For pronunciation, one of the new features will be, and please don't hold me to this. It's not going to be like next week or anything like that. But one of the new features will be, I don't know the exact term for it, but it's like a vocabulary bank, where you can give it, for CMIT, right? AI is never going to pronounce acronyms the way that you want unless you tell it. So you can sort of give it a list of harder to pronounce words and give it examples of how to pronounce those. So I don't know what the UI for that will look like yet, but that's one thing. So you're already doing the right thing, but we're going to make it more intuitive to do that. Filler words, we call them buffers.
Yeah.
They really just buy time and help the conversation flow. But right now they are really robotic and not always appropriate for, like you said, it's like, why would you say that filler? Why would you say that buffer in that context? You'll have more granular settings to choose which buffers or no buffers at all. That'll be a change that comes to the UI. Then for the consistency, LLMs will never give you 100% consistency back to back because they are LLMs. But there are two ways that you can start to address this. The first is in the settings. If you slide this top K value down, think of this as lower is stick to the script and higher is be more creative. So if you slide this all the way down, it's not going to it's not going to hallucinate as much. You're not giving it an exact script to stick to, so it still has to come up and generate language. But you can give it a script. You can put in the phone call settings under prompts, you can put down here, what did I put here? Here are some common questions you might get and how to answer them. You can give examples of common questions, or you can say, you can even put down here, example of a good conversation with a caller. And then literally do caller, AI, caller, and you can put in how to handle certain calls. You can put, again, like as many of these as you want. Typically 2 or 3 is enough to get it to start to stick to a script. And then
Cool.
that in combination with the lower top K value, lower creativity should help a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we should dedicate an office hours to this once some of these new features are out.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty happy with it, and as far as just first iteration of it and everything, it's doing okay. But there are certain things where it's like, boy, if I could just refine it, right, get it better. And I know the new UI and the Adele 2.0, it's going to be fantastic and leaps and bounds ahead. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we're excited too. We are coming up right on time. We have our engineering demo, so I get to see all the new fun stuff they're working on to prepare for the next office hours. So I've got to drop. But if anyone has any follow-up questions or need to catch up about anything else, just send an email and happy to talk.
Thanks so much, you
Thanks,
guys. I
Mark.
really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.